Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Sperber, and this is my first show here on Locked On Lightning. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a good season with you guys as I make my first year as part of this Locked On podcast group. This week, we're going to chat about the Lightning as we introduce them to this 2024 season, as I introduce myself to you guys here on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in Locked On Lightning. Thanks for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Josh Sperber, your host every day. Want to give a big shout out to Adam Denker, former host here at Locked On Lightning, for paving the way. Got big shoes to fill, but we're going to get into it. I've been living in Tampa for 2 years now, mainly cover the Clearwater Threshers in the minor league. I've been covering hockey at multiple different levels since 2018, and really excited to get the chance to bring you guys information about the Tampa Bay Lightning throughout the course of this season. With that, we can get into our first segment, the just kind of expectations going into this new Lightning season. We know that a lot happened off season. It was a pretty quiet off season, though, around the NHL. Not too many massive, big shake-up kind of trades that we saw. But the Lightning did make one of them, getting Jake Guentzel from the Carolina Hurricanes and Pittsburgh Penguins as part of the replacement package, if you will, for the former captain, Steven Stamkos. And obviously the expectations for this Lightning season are going to be changed up a little bit, because not having Steven Stamkos, a 10-year captain, a guy who is, on the all-time Lightning list in so many different ways. I mean, that's just a hard guy to replace. And you have to look on this Lightning team about where that replacement is going to be coming from. And it's really going to kind of set the stage for the rest of this show, because what we can expect from this Lightning team kind of gets the ball rolling on kind of the keys to the season, key players, and of course, the big question, which is going to be who will the Lightning name as their captain to replace Steven Stamkos. We're going to get to cover all of these on the show so far today, but we're going to start off with, of course, the expectations for the season. Last year, the Tampa Bay Lightning, a playoff team once again. Get used to the Lightning in the playoffs, because I'd like to think that's where they're going to go back to. I just don't see a lot of other teams in the East that made enough moves to really overtake any one of really a lot of these playoff teams, but the Lightning especially. I think that they just have such great coaching, and just the culture there is all about winning games. And I think kind of the moves that they made in some ways showed that. You can say how giving up Steven Stamkos is not really, the Lightning committing to winning, but they're committing to long terms. They're getting a lot more younger guys on their roster. I mean, if you look down their position groups, they don't have more than 3 30-year-olds in any one position group, giving them a grand total of 7 when you look at their goalies, defenders, and over. Most of their team is 30 or under. The goalies, you have Andrei Vasilevskiy, Matt Tompkins are both 30 years old. Vasilevsky's in the prime of his career. You look at couple of the older guys really do bring some experience, though, for these Tampa Bay Lightning. A big one is Ryan McDonagh, a guy that they acquired in the offseason from Nashville. Don't want to call it a Steven Stamkos trade, but that certainly could be considered one, as McDonagh came back from the Nashville Predators a bit before Steven Stamkos did. As you may know, McDonagh spent a grand total of 5 years with the Tampa Bay Lightning. solid defender. He's had 2 good seasons in Nashville where he combined for a plus-minus of 31. And he is going to be a big key to this Lightning season and a big way that this team can kind of get back to the playoffs. Because with the Lightning, especially in the last couple of years, this is a team that has won 2 Stanley Cups in the past 10 years. When you look at this Lightning team now, you think playoffs. That's just part of their culture. That is just how we do things here in Tampa Bay, just trying to win games and get towards the promised land. I don't know if I can say I expect their playoff run to be that much better than last season. Hopefully they won't run into the eventual champions again. And, obviously you want to beat your rivals, and Florida's certainly that. But I don't know if I can expect too deep of a playoff run for the Lightning because a lot of it is kind of up in the air. I mean, you look at some of their key players. Some of them have been here for a while. Nikita Kucherov is a guy who's not going anywhere. I expect him to have another big season and maybe even a bigger one than he had in 2024 and 2023 in the last season for Kucherov, the tied assist leader in the NHL and the point leader in the NHL. I mean, he just had such an incredible season. And this year, the Lightning, I think, did a good job adding pieces to the offseason and using what they had to kind of move to get some complementary pieces around him. Jake Gensel is another guy who I expect a really good season from. He's kind of had a more secondary role on each of the past teams he's played on. He played most of his year in Pittsburgh, played part of 2023 with Carolina before the Pens got him. And now, of course, with the Tampa Bay Lightning, season high in points, 84, dating back to 2021 and 2022. He had 22 goals and 30 last year for a plus-minus of 9. And he is going to be key, kind of filling in for Nikita Kucherov at times. If Kucherov is out, maybe he'll be that starting left wing. It's hard to really tell how the Lightning are going to make up their lineup right now just because there are so many new faces. You have Gensel, you have Cam Atkinson. There are some of the youngsters that they might be trying to get in the mix from Orlando. But Cam Atkinson probably will be a second liner. I'd imagine we have Kucherov lining up on the right, Gensel on the left, and then Braden Point in center on that first line. And that's going to be pretty solid. But, I mean, how deep do the Lightning go past that? Again, this is just a lot of guys that you're not seeing a whole lot in higher leverage situations. And it's kind of going to be somewhat of a rebuilding year for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think. The crux of this team that is very young. Nikita Kucherov is obviously the key player on offense. He's only 31 years old. You, of course, have Andrei Vasilevsky expected to be healthier this year. Having closer to a full season of him will be crucial for the Lightning. It was very easy to see how much better they played with Vasilevsky in goal in 2023 and 2024 in that season. And having a full season of him would be massive for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So having him in goal will certainly help, but then it's defense that's going to need to step up. I think Victor Hedman is going to get kind of a lot more challenge and should have a lot higher expectations from Lightning fan, because especially with Stamkos gone now, he's the senior man on the team. He's the top dog. He's the guy that I think is going to end up being the captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, we're going to go into that later in the segment, but I think that his leadership is going to be counted on a lot heavier than it has been in the past. You've had Stamkos been there, done it all. So was Hedman. I mean, he's been there for such a long time. Stamkos was a 10-year captain. Might not get 10 years out of Hedman as he's 33, the second oldest player on the Lightning roster, or third oldest if you're including Ryan McDonough as well. And I think Hedman and McDonough could be the Lightning's first line on defense as well. But Victor Hedman, I mean, obviously a household name for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's been there. It's going to be his 15th season, I think, this season. And I think that his leadership is going to prove pretty crucial for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's something that we're going to get to when we turn the keys, as we turn the page into the next segment of Locked On Lightning. But first, we are going to hear from our sponsors over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now, through September 22nd, that is a week from yesterday, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a form of payment, and you can cancel every time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. I know there are ways of getting YouTube TV without FanDuel, but this way you get a really good access to place some great bets. It says NFL Sunday Ticket, but you can bet on NHL games. I'll bet you on that as well. Going to be a pretty hefty bet. I need the money. But on a more serious note, our good friends at FanDuel are giving you just a fantastic deal, nice little deal on YouTube TV. So stick with FanDuel for all of your betting needs. Now for the Tampa Bay Lightning, let's take a look at some of the keys to the season. And of course, we want to make this a more interactive show. My Twitter, or my X, I should say, is on the screen there. Please definitely pass along some of your thoughts on the Lightning. I want to hear some of your takes. I'm new to the area. I'm new to this Lightning scene. I want to hear from you guys, the fans, about what you want to see going on in this Locked On podcast, what expectations that you guys have for me. So we kind of got it starting on just looking at the keys to this Tampa Bay Lightning season. And of course, key number one is going to be how they move on from Steven Stamkos. Some of this we've kind of talked about a little bit. It just means, I think in some ways, that Nikita Kucherov is going to be charged with just a lot more handling of the offense. You're going to see the puck in his stick a whole lot more. And that, I think, is going to be a massive benefit for Lightning fans. I mean, Kucherov really took the keys from Steven Stamkos in terms of the Lightning offense over the course of the season. 44 goals, 100 assists. He's had triple-digit points now for the fourth time as a Tampa Bay Lightning coming in this season, and he has just been incredible. I think the assist numbers might take a bit of a drop with Stamkos not there to pass to, but Nikita Kucherov has been a workhorse. He missed one game over his last two seasons where he combined for a total of 157 points, 163 assists, 74 goals for Nikita Kucherov. And I think a key for him is going to be scoring the puck a little bit more. You know, Kucherov is going to have the puck in his stick more than anyone else on this Lightning team. But I think he's just going to have to ramp it up in terms of leadership to try and help the Lightning get further than they need to go, especially on younger teams like the Lightning are in a lot of ways, especially on teams that are going through a bit of a transition like the Lightning absolutely are, again, with the loss of Steven Stamkos. That is going to take a big hit on the Lightning offense this season. There's no way around that. You lose one of your all-time great franchise players, future Hockey Hall of Famer. We can keep on lauding Steven Stamkos, but I'm going to let the Locked On Predators show take a stab at that one because he certainly deserves his accolades. I'm not trying to say the Lightning are going to completely move on from Steven Stamkos in terms of his memory, because that's certainly not going to be the case. But one thing they actually have to move on from is his goal-scoring ability. And Stamkos was second on the Lightning in goal score last year. Braden Point was third. He's another guy who I think is going to have to step up, and someone that we're going to talk about when we talk about potential Lightning captains later on in this episode. But something the Lightnings did really well in the offseason was get some guys with experience. I talked about Ryan McDonagh, a guy who has a whole lot of experience with the Lightning already. Been with the Lightning for a couple of years before he joined Nashville. Again, not in the Steven Stamkos trade, but it's just the new acquisitions coming from Nashville after that Stamkos trade. He was with the Lightning for their Stanley Cup runs, 5 seasons with Tampa from 2017 ending in 2022. The last 2 seasons, he has missed fewer than 20 games and made over 40 assists for the Nashville Predators, a guy with a combined plus minus of 31 over 2 seasons. He's never had a negative season since he began with the New York Rangers back in 2010. And Ryan McDonagh is going to be key for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned, the experience with the Lightning. Coming into that, I think him bringing that experience with Tampa, he has been with Tampa's head coach, John Cooper, before. Obviously, Coop was the coach during the Stanley Cup runs, during the President's Trophy season in 2018 and 2019, the best season record-wise in Lightning history. McDonagh was there for those. He was there for a lot of the highs of the Tampa Bay Lightning franchise. And hopefully this year isn't one of the lows. And because of him, it might not be. Lilleberg is a guy that I think is also going to be key. Emil Lilleberg, a younger defender, expected to take on a bigger role in the Lightning's rotation this season. But it's one of these guys, it's these guys pairing with Victor Hedman. That line 1 defense, I would say, is going to be Hedman and McDonagh. I like that as a first line because it's 2 guys who have worked together before, 2 guys who have won Stanley Cups together. And it's a good tone-setting kind of line. But, I mean, how good can Ryan McDonagh be at 35 years old? You know, new team again, late in his career. You don't know how much more hockey he has left, frankly. So incorporating him back into that Lightning system is definitely crucial. And I think really the faster he readjusts, the quicker everything else is going to kind of snap forward for that defense, because you've got a couple of guys that have been around for a little bit. Darren Raddysh has been around for a minute, is just one of the guys. JJ Moser, someone that they're really going to be trying to integrate to this new squad, one of their new offseason acquisitions. And that Mikhail Sergachev trade is going to be a hit for the Lightning at first. But the Lightning did that by going younger. They traded Sergachev for younger guys with a little bit less of an injury history. J.J. Moser replacing him defensive-wise and getting a young Connor Geekie at forward. Those are 2 guys that I think are going to be key, because a lot of people in the inner circle with the Lightning, you know, high-level brass, whatever you want to talk about it, fans as well, were really thinking about the duo of Mikhail Sergachev and Victor Hedman at defense for a long, long time at the front of the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was kind of an abrupt trade that happened early in July and really kind of changed the way you might look at this Lightning team. You look at a team that has Victor Hedman and Mikhail Sergachev behind a team that just lost their second best offensive player of last season and one of their best players of all time in Steven Stamkos. You look at adding one new frontline defender to that mix, and it could get a little bit chaotic. So having Ryan McDonagh back there shoring up the defense on that first line with Hedman, I think is going to be crucial for the Lightning as they adjust to life without Steven Stamkos, try and beef up their defense, and then kind of make some room for J.J. Moser to eventually get on that first line, because he's a guy who I think is going to need some development. Leeleman is also a guy that is going to need some development, so they're kind of developing those 2 guys maybe in their second line, one of them to join Victor Hedman his next 4 years after he is signed after his new contract. And I think it's going to be – I think it could be good. I think McDonagh defense is really going to help out. We'll see how good J.J. Moser can get as well. Some of these new acquisitions can certainly be keys as well for the Lightning. I think seeing how well Connor Geekie is going to do in his new league, maybe getting an increased role, you know, having a guy like Nikita Kucherov to set everyone up, and we talked about him being such a big key. His passing propensity is always big, but he'll need some goals as well. But he'll also have to just kind of set everyone else. A lot more responsibility on Victor Hedman as a leader, and as Nikita Kucherov on the offensive stalwart of this Tampa Bay Lightning team. So we've talked about Victor Hedman. We've talked about Nikita Kucherov. These are two guys that I'm sure many of you guys are kind of throwing in the ring when we talk about who the next Lightning captain is going to be. When we come back, I'll give you my thoughts on the big three for the Lightning this season, and we will be back. Big thank you to our sponsors, Josh Sperber here on Locked On Lightning. And next up, and the final segment in my first show here on Locked On Lightning is about who will be the captain. It is typical for most teams to have 3 captains in total, 2 alternates, and of course, the big man with the C, Steven Stamkos, is one of the NHL's longest tenured captains. His run as captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning lasted from 2014 until 2024, of course, when he was picked up by the Nashville Predators in free agency. Gabriel Landeskog of the Colorado Avalanche, Jamie Benn of the Dallas Stars, and of course, Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the only 3 captains with equal or longer tenure than the Steven Stamkos on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right now, the Lightning are one of 5 teams without a captain, excluding the Utah Hockey Club, who still hasn't named their first captain. So 6 total, but I think we're going to give Utah a pass on this one. It is typical for teams around the NHL to use guys that have been there for a while, and the Lightning especially like to use players that have been there for their whole career. If we look at that, it seems to be a really easy 3 for the Tampa Bay Lightning in terms of naming their new captain. Victor Hedman and Nikita Kucherov were the alternate captains for Steven Stamkos last year. I don't think that's going to change for Nikita Kucherov. I think last year was a fantastic season. Last 2 years, it's been great. But I really like putting Victor Hedman at captain. He's been the longest tenured Lightning. He was there. He's the only member of the Tampa Bay Lightning who played without Steven Stamkos as his captain before. So, I think it's just a no-brainer, slam dunk to have a guy who is one of the faces of the franchise, an all-time great, Stanley Cup winner with the team. He's been through it all with these Tampa Bay Lightning guys, and I think Victor Hedman coming in as the Lightning captain is an absolute slam dunk. I have a feeling you guys don't really want to disagree with me on that, but of course, make sure to go and look back with me on Twitter when it comes to any disagreements you may have. You can also comment on the YouTube video if that is where you're listening as well. So I think Victor Hedman seems to be the easy choice for the captain. I would be shocked for a whole lot of reasons if Nikita Kucherov lost his role as an alternate captain. He was the first player drafted in the NHL All-Star game last year, maybe the best offensive player in the entire league, a huge reason the Lightning had the success they did in 2023, 2024 during that season. So I think Nikita Kucherov as an alternate captain will be good. I like Hedman there instead of Nikita personally. In general, soccer, hockey, whatever sports have captains, I've always been more on the side of putting defenders in the more prominent positions. Not to say that Kucherov doesn't deserve an alternate captain spot, because he does. He absolutely leads the offense, and I think that's going to be doubly true with Steven Stamkos now out of the picture. I don't want to bring too much up about losing Stammer, but I mean, Nikita Kucherov is going to be the quarterback of the offense now. We talked about his assists, his goals. We don't need to go through his stats. His role as the offensive quarterback is solidified no matter what letter is on the front of his jersey. There will be a C or an A, but no matter what letter is on the front of Nikita Kucherov's jersey, he is going to have an important role when it comes to leadership. I've always liked using defenders or goalkeepers as captains. The goalie thing in hockey is a bit different. I know they don't love having goalie captains, only 5 goalie captains, and I do think Andrei Vasilevskiy does deserve a C or an A on his jersey. But with the whole rule being a little different for goalies, I'm not sure if that is going to happen. A third option would be Braden Point, I think is the more likely option as the number 3. He is certainly someone that is going to have to take a bigger role on this Lightning offense. Maybe elevated into more of a role, into a bigger role than he's had in the past. So that is something, that's certainly something to think about. I think Connor Geekie might be a guy to think about down the road in this role. He's just 20 years old, and the Lightning are really going to use him for kind of development purposes, set maybe third or fourth line center for Geekie. Braden Point, I expect to be the first line center for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was their third-round pick in 2014, so he meets that criteria of spending his whole career with the Lightning. He has been with the Lightning during the 2 Stanley Cup seasons, and what I think is the biggest part is just the fact that he was healthy this year. In 2021 and 2022, he played 56 and 66 games. He has played over 80 games now 3 times in his Lightning career, doing it in each of the last 2 seasons, 90 points with 46 goals and 44 assists for the Lightning last season. I think Braden Point is going to be the choice to slide in as the assistant, as the second alternate captain after Nikita Kucherov. But captain rules aside, I would really like to see Andrei Vasilevskiy in that role. I mean, he's just the kind of guy that the players will feel more comfortable with when he is in goal. You look at, I went to a couple Lightning games last season, one where Kucherov wasn't in goal and the Lightning got spanked, and then the other one where he was in goal. His first game back, they won like 4-1 or 5-2. I forget the exact score, but you could just tell it was a different Lightning team. This was coming on the heels of a big loss by, I think, 6 goals. And then they come back and beat Dallas by a pretty significant margin in Vasilevskiy's first game back in goal after starting last year with an injury. And when you have a guy who has that kind of effect on your team, when you have that guy that just comes into the net and brings a boost to your guys, that is the kind of person that you want representing your club. That is the kind of person that you want leading your team out onto the ice. And, you know, there might be some hoops to jump through and some red tape in terms of making goalies captains, but it's happened before. Roberto Luongo, famously a captain of the Canadiens. They just had an extra alternate captain, and there is still a possibility to have 3 alternate captains. Regulation is 2. And I think that there is definitely an alternate world where you have the third alternate captain being Andrei Vasilevskiy. I think what is most likely going to be the scenario for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Victor Hedman is going to be named captain. I think that is all but official at this point. I really don't see the Lightning going any other way with that captain position. I would be, again, genuinely shocked if Nikita Kucherov had to take the A off of his jersey. Braden Point and Andrei Vasilevskiy, in my opinion, would be the 2 best candidates to be elevated to that more leadership role on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think with the just history of goalie captains in the NHL, it's more likely that it's going to end up being Hedman at the captain, Kucherov and Point at the assistant captain. I would like to see Andrei Vasilevskiy get that third A to put on his shirt. He is going to be the primary goalie for the Lightning this season, a healthy Andrei Vasilevskiy, which will mean we see very little of the Tampa Bay Lightning backups. And I think that is certainly a good thing for Tampa Bay. They just play better when he's in there. The team trusts him. He's been with the Lightning for so long, Stanley Cup winning goalie, all of that. I think it would be good for the Lightning to really commit to their goalie and show the fans that just because we lost Steven Stamkos, we still have guys, we still have club legends here on this team, and we still have guys that we have been developing, we have had on this roster, we have had at Amalie Arena. in front of you. So my pick for the Lightning's captains would be the captain, Victor Hedman, and the final and the two assistant captains at Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, but the third, I think, should be Andrei Vasilevsky. So that is going to be it. Thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, go find Locked On NHL, where the local experts keep you updated daily on all the biggest storylines ahead of the 2024-2025 season. Make sure to find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, everyone, this was my first show. Don't rip me too hard in the comment section, but definitely feel free to connect with me on X. I'm at Josh_Sperber, and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow Locked On Lightning on all of our social media platforms. And make sure to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube as well. Once again, my name is Josh Sperber. I want to give you a big thanks for tuning in to my first show, and thanks for making Locked On Lightning your show every day. I will see you tomorrow back on Locked On Lightning.